I want to linger on this for a second because I was raised on the million extracurricular
Uh-huh.
thing, and my my memory of it was that I didn't enjoy most of it. Um, and but this is a very tough question because, and I think this is also something I thought about while reading your book, which is that children are almost as diverse, perhaps as diverse in their preferences and personality types as adults are. And I was the kind of kid that was pretty self-motivated, and if I wanted to work on something, would do it all day from the comfort of my house. And but you know, a lot of kids aren't like that. And beyond that, there's this, you I would hate to think that, you know, my kid could have been great at something if only I had exposed it to them early enough for them to figure out that they
Right.
had a knack for it and figure out that they liked it. You know, for instance, I'm a you know, a big chess aficionado, and there are no great top chess players in the world that started after the age of like 8, right? And you know, there are probably other skills that are like that. So there's a philosophy that says I should let my kid try everything at least a couple of times, even if they don't want to, just to see if they develop a knack for it, and then pull them out after a little while. On the other hand, you have a child that's very young that is just crammed back to back with no time to, no downtime, no time to be bored, no time to just see where their boredom and creativity takes them, which is also very valuable. So this is something I think about a lot as a probable future parent. So what do you make of that trade-off?
So I, it is probably useful to say that when we look at the data, at the literature on extracurriculars and like what is the value of extracurriculars, what we see is actually is a fair amount of there are some benefits to kids from doing extracurricular activities. They are almost all about sort of socio-emotional happiness, like sort of emotional. There are like a lot of emotional benefits, and they seem to accrue from the fact that extracurriculars for a lot of kids provide in a kind of space to do something that they're good at, that they like, that's different than say school. So on that, in that period of middle school where like everyone is a total jerk, which maybe you didn't have, but a lot of us did. This is a kind of a different place, a different thing to excel at, a different set of people to engage with. And I think that if sort of once you put, and that's kind of the big benefits of extracurricular. I mean, yes, it's true your kid could turn out to be a chess grandmaster, but like, and maybe your kid will be, but like most kids do not turn out to do that. Like that's a pretty small probability. That's like a pretty small probability event. But a lot of kids, like sort of on average, benefit from these kind of like emotional things. Once you put it like that, it suggests that the value to things like trying and having your kid try a bunch of different things and sort of see how it goes is that they could find out something that they like. And that once they have something that they like, that is, potentially a really good thing for them, and really good sort of way for them to be like a happier and more fulfilled person. I think the place where we get in trouble is like the people who tell me like I'm going to have my kid row crew because Harvard really likes crew rowers from San Diego. And like that's not a great reason to have. Maybe your kid loves crew, but making them do crew because like last year Harvard needed and want someone for their 8 boat and they like people from San Diego, that's like not a good, that's probably not a good reason to have them row.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's definitely, you know, in my memory, there's a big difference between the extracurriculars I just loved, which were mostly music based, and the extracurriculars I hated, which was pretty much everything else. But you know, it's interesting, this notion of pushing your kids to do things that they don't like, and being the bad guy a little bit. This is something people really differ on.
Yeah.
And it's something I think about a lot because it's not always obvious what the right role to play is. So for instance, I remember as a kid, I had musical aptitude and my parents enrolled me in classical piano lessons, which I hated. for probably, 7 years or so. And, as an adult, I play, I ended up going to Juilliard for jazz and still have a music career. And the fact that I started classical piano so young and went through all of those years of physical training has translated to a constant joy of being able to play piano as an adult and just having it beneath my fingers. So there was just a trade-off between my unhappiness at an early age. Not that my parents necessarily could have predicted it would have brought me lasting happiness later, but like these are that's a kind of story that justifies a certain kind of being the bad guy approach to certain things. So how do you view being the bad guy versus really paying attention to what your kid likes and dislikes and allowing them really to tailor their extracurriculars just towards their preferences?
Yeah, I think what's very hard about this is exactly this thing you identify, which is like, I can see I have a bigger picture sense of like what my kids like might get out of some activity and of the value of investing in something, even if it's hard. So you get to have it be easier. And so you can sort of come to enjoy it. And that's like true of a lot of things that we like. I remember pushing my kids to learn to read and telling my daughter being like, I'm so frustrated, like, and saying like, no, look, I promise you, like, if we just work on this and we work harder, then like you will be able to read and you will like it. And in that moment, I was like, I know that I'm right. And I was right. And she learned to read and she does.
That's a pretty safe
like
bet.
That seemed like a safe bet, right? So that seemed like a safe bet. Like everybody likes to read, but then there are other pieces where I think it's less, it's less obvious. And I think the complicated balance is, you don't want to tell your kid, this day that you have a bad piano lesson, like, yeah, you can just like quit in any moment. On the other hand, there's probably some point at which you say, this is kind of not their thing. And we've let our kids quit some things and not quit other things. And I'm never sort of totally sure what's the right balance.